The end of the evolution of what the Countach was. Apparently, Italian cars are electrically leaky. So here's what I got going on. The car has 2 ECUs, 2 fuel pumps, 2 everything. I'm gonna beat the crap out of something with this piece of metal and hope it works. And then goes around this setting into one of these 2 holes, and then has to bend 90 degrees again to go in the side and come out that hole. So if you take the pump out, the fuel just goes, oh, oh, oh. No, no, no. Yes, yes, yes. You. So anyway, I tell you guys also this. I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to watch this video because it's a Lamborghini and it's an expensive douchebag car. And all of those things are accurate, but it's also a really great car. And sometimes, just sometimes, somebody works with their own hands and gets one. And in this circumstance, I do. So we're working on it like any old car. So for all of you that are still watching, I kind of appreciate that you're here because you're real car guys. So today I am fixing my cars at home, which means I don't have all the best tools. And my entire garage is a complete mess. Total disaster. There are spiders and ickle nasties from prehistoric times everywhere. But anyway, here's the Murcielago, and it only runs on 6 cylinders, which sucks a lot. And it makes less than half the horsepower. But it's weird because when you start it up, it sounds basically the way it normally does, just less voracious. So what the deal is with this thing is it's got 2 banks, 2 ECUs, 2 fuel systems, 2 everything. And if it senses a problem, it's like, screw you, shut down, like an overprotective Karen mother. Which in this circumstance, I don't mind because said engine is expensive. And I am not that wealthy or having that much time. So we're gonna fix it today. Anyway, I called a buddy of mine, Nate Millicent, who's very smart, worked on a lot of Murcielagos and built stuff up, and sadly has dealt with really annoying, narcissistic, stupid rich people almost as much as I have, actually possibly more. But we're not gonna go into that today. And I called him up and I said, Nate, here's what's going on with it. I just replaced the 2 fuel pumps and got it happy and everything was great. And then it said low oxygen sensor voltage, so I replaced oxygen sensors. And he's like, dude, how's the battery? And I'm like, and he's like, that's your problem right there. So I'll talk about why, but we're gonna go get a battery. And I finally wised up and got a so-called battery tender for my motorcycle, and now it actually starts. Yes, I'm getting smarter, but basically I grew up in the 80s when electronic devices and toys would just catch on fire. So I have a deep-seated mistrust to all things electronic. Ha! So let's go to the auto parts store. Okay, so I'm back and I went, boom, got myself a jack and 2 stands. They were pretty good. I got them at the shop. So for everybody that's judging me on having Duralast stands, I don't tell you, man, they're available and they work. And if you want me to have something else, you're welcome to send them to me or sponsor my channel. Anyway, so I got my hair cut too, which is nice. I decided to just go short. See how that works. I look like an egghead and don't care. But look at this mess, you guys. Oh, God. I have to go through this now and fight the spiders. So what we're gonna do is remove the wheel from the Murcielago so I can replace the battery. Oh, here's something you guys got to see. So I'm gonna pull a negative terminal off and I got the thing that holds off the battery, but I want to show you some of the welds on the tube frame of the Murcielago because the Murcielago is effectively an evolved Diablo and a Diablo is an evolved Countach. The Murcielago is the last of the hand-built steel tube frame, badass, manual transmission Lamborghini. So it's actually a way bigger deal than people realize, and I don't really care if people don't get it. Because they're stupid and rich and they just buy things because other people tell them they're cool and they don't know that yet. So if you can get one now before the stupid rich people all get together and go, we should buy them, duh. And the prices go up because that's what happens. Anyway, so here's the battery. I was able to take this loose, although all I have is this folding wrench set for bicycles. And then this is 13 millimeters, so this should come right off. Now I already have the battery disconnected because the Lamborghini has a factory kill switch. Aren't you coming off there? Why are you being a dick? I have to show everybody how crappy the welds are. They're not really crappy, they work. It's funny how people are with welds. Hang on, I'll show you in a minute. Let's get this battery terminal off, yes. I loosened you. You need to come off. Why aren't you coming off of there? What the hell? Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's some weird European voodoo magic. Stop being voodoo magic. Okay, anyway, the welds. Look at this. Can you guys see this? They're just like, it's MIG'd on, okay? See that weld right there? See that weld? And the truth of the matter is, there's nothing wrong with those welds. It's just the way it is. Look here, at the corner of this. See that weld right here? It's just square steel tubing. That's all the frame, okay? And you can see it. Look at the welds right here, okay? Now, I'm bringing that up to you guys because this is an amazing supercar, hypercar, whatever, top tier. But like people with Instagram and all, like, oh, I want to stack dimes. I mean, you can stack dimes if you want. It just takes a lot of time. But you can MIG weld things, especially steel, in a way that's much quicker and holds and is structurally sound, but doesn't like tickle dingbats fancy because of the way it looks. And I bring that up because a lot of people criticize other people's welds and such when they're welding perfectly well. And I build a heck of a lot of cars with a MIG welder that's powered by 110 house voltage. That's a gas MIG gun. And done a great job up to like 1/8 inch. You can double it up. So if you know what you're doing, you can get a lot done. And the people that think they're really good at welding are still building their first chassis when I've like built a lot of cars and gone and like won races and moved up with them and stuff. So keep that in mind. Welds don't all have to look perfect. Lamborghinis don't, and Ferrari sure as hell doesn't. You can still find MIG wire attached to old Ferraris. Yeah, it's better than Ferrari. Okay, you guys, so my wife wants to go to Home Depot and she's not ready yet because she's working. So I decided to do some more stuff. I'm going to replace the other 2 oxygen sensors. They're way down here. And so I had to take off this carbon panel to show it. I wanted to show you guys a couple things. One, this little guy right here, that is the kill switch that you can pull the plug out and just disconnect the battery, which is nice because apparently Italian cars are electrically leaky. That's neither here nor there. So I found this device right here. What kind of surreptitious, terrible tracking device thing could this possibly be? Well, it was made in the Czech Republic, and this car, was it in the Czech Republic or Yugoslavia? I can't remember. Anyway, so it was over there. And what it is somebody hooked this up to the vacuum. I don't know if you can see this guy right there. It's a little vacuum opener, closer, solenoid kind of thing. So the Capristo exhaust could be louder or quieter. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the Capristo exhaust is not that loud, so I just wired it open all the time. I know who he thinks is really cool on his Diablo, but they're pretty quiet and boring. You should hear my Gallardo, it's way better. So I'm gonna take this out. I just thought I'd show it to you. It's kind of neat. So you can see that, the panel goes here, big master. And I had to take this off, and I discovered this because right here, this is the oxygen sensor for the front on this bank. And here is the oxygen sensor for the rear, if you can see it. So I had to take that off to get to it. So, oh, that was smart, Casey. You are an idiot. Thankfully, I found it. Okay, back to work. In my garage, at home, working on a Lamborghini, because that's not possible. Okay, guys, I got the oxygen sensors out. These here that I put the plastic caps back on are the used one. And that there is the new one. Now these used ones have a Lamborghini part number, even though they're just Bosch. And they have this connector, 2 connectors actually, because this Mercy is an early one, so it's the same as the later Diablos in terms of a lot of the parts. And so, I don't know, they're like $350, $400 a piece from Lamborghini. But if you just have a brain and you look at this, I think it was used on Jaguars and Yugos from what I read in the early like 90s. And the Bosch part number is Bosch 0258003 12 volt, and there. Okay, so I'm frustrated because I have a new battery in, and the voltage is fantastic and exactly where it's supposed to be. And I put everything together and I checked everything and cleaned up all of the connections and everything is fantastic. And I fired it up and it's still running on one bank and being a complete asshole. So I don't know what the hell its problem is. It sounds like both fuel pumps are running exactly the way they should. And I have no idea what's wrong with it. I did disconnect the battery while I was running to see if it would run off the alternator to make sure the alternator is putting out juice. That was also the advice of a friend that worked on them. Of course, I think he worked on later ones a little after. So I'm stumped. It's a mystery. That's frustrating. I really thought I'd fix it and be like, yay! But I didn't. And that's life with old cars. I have decided to be what they would in the past call a proper Italian mechanic. But since that's probably cultural misappropriation, I would say I'm going to be a redneck mechanic. And since that's probably mean to rednecks, I'm just going to say I'm going to beat the crap out of something with this piece of metal and hope it works. Actually, this is entirely intelligent troubleshooting. You see the two solenoids I've discovered for the tool fuel systems, one for each bank. I have narrowed it down to there as being something going on. Now, I disconnected both fuel solenoids and tried to fire it up, and it wouldn't even fire on the one bank, which tells me both the solenoids are likely closed all the time, unless the computer sensed them disconnected and then just decided to not let it run. So then it'll fire on the one, but then when I moved the running bank's wire of the solenoid over to the non-running banks of the solenoid, it didn't do anything. So I'm going to fire it up and let it run. Hopefully both solenoids will get power to let them be open, and then I'm going to hit one with this. Now you'll notice over here I've got the air box on upside down and backwards so that I have something extra there, because I'm all paranoid about stuff getting sucked into engines and ruining like all of my happiness and toys, because that happened to me once before. So I thought this would be good YouTube, and hopefully I don't ruin everything right now. Okay, don't blow up. Watch it just like decide to run. I will beat you with a wrench, you bitch. One bank. Running on one bank. Here we go. Good match. All right. Nothing. I swear this car, I don't know you guys. I'm trying still. Okay guys, so here's what I'm thinking after doing old school troubleshooting without a Leonardo or whatever the heck it is. So here's what I got going on. The car has two ECUs, two fuel pumps, two everything. It's basically two 6-cylinder motors running together in unison. So the ECUs are there. And here, you can't see them well, are all the fuses and relays for all the important stuff. None of the fuses are blown. Both the ECUs are there. I believe both ECUs are in fact running, because when I hook up the diagnostic stuff I do have to the OBD2, it gives me readings that change relating to both banks. So I think both the ECUs are working. Now, on the fuel system, I'm gonna show you guys right over here. So the car's pretty nifty, okay? Right now it's got a Capristo exhaust. So this is the left bank, because all the exhaust crosses over and comes out this side. So the right bank is here, comes out here. This is running, this is not. It's also interesting because if you notice, this intake plenum, the runners, I don't know if you can see that so well, right there, see it? Going from here, going down, over. So the intakes on the right and the exhaust on the right are the left bank and vice versa, okay? So keep that in mind. However, to really throw you guys off, so the intake on the right is the left bank, but the fuel rail on the left is the left bank, because you can see the fuel rail here. See that round thing? That's the fuel pressure regulator here, and that green deal is the injector, and it's going toward that bank on this intake plenum. So there's that, right? So coming over here, you guys can see, and I got these open, which scares the hell out of me just because I don't want stuff getting sucked in and blow up my stuff. Here's the water tank. I got it loose right now, but this is the fuel filter. This is a solenoid, which cuts off the fuel to it. And then there's the line, which is sort of funny because check it out. It's got these braided stainless lines for over here where it's pressure, but it's under the same pressure over here, which is this dumb hokey line, which I may replace both. So what I did is this one here is for the right bank, which is not running. And this solenoid I don't believe is working. So I did a number of things. I unplugged both of these and see if the car would run. It would not, which leads me to believe that the solenoids are always closed and they turn on when they're energized to allow it. Now, the reason these exist, presumably, is so the ECUs can shut down a bank if it detects misfires, fuel pump's going out, whatever, right? But the problem is, I'm guessing, I don't know, I'm not like a long-time Murcielago mechanic or something, and it's not like those are all over the place, is that this is stuck in the off position. And how I'm deducing that is I took the plugs out of both, car would not fire, okay? Then I put the plug from the one on the right to the one on the left to see if the one on the left is not getting electricity from its plug. Now the car, for like a half a second, kind of sputtered like it wanted to run, but then didn't and was like, no, screw you. So it does appear to me the solenoid is not working. Now the other thing I did was I got this plug and I pulled it over to this one and plugged it in there, and the car does still run, which leads me to believe that the plug associated with the solenoid in the fuel system and the bank that's not running and the solenoid that I think is closed is getting electricity and functioning normally, I'm presuming, because it appears both ECUs are in fact running. And then when I switched them over, I switched the plug that is definitely running from the bank that is running, the plug that has electricity from the bank that is running on the solenoid that opens, to the one that doesn't open. The car would not run. So the best I can figure right now is that solenoid is not opening. The other way I could do that and figure it out is, so you got the fuel, you got two fuel systems here. There's the solenoids. The pumps, by the way, are down here. Here's the wheel well. Isn't it great? Ta-da, there's the pumps. Okay, and I don't have them in the cradle because I had to work on it. I've been switching pumps to try to figure if that's it. It's not. And it's not fun to switch these because the fuel line's on the bottom of the tank. So if you take the pump out, the fuel just goes all over from gravity. So you got to do it like quick, like a bunny, and have some plugs ready. So anyway, so here's your two fuel lines right here, right? You can see them there. They go underneath this carbon fiber, and they come out right here, and they go to the two fuel rails. So the one on the left, as you can see, has a white label there, and the white label is there, which is the one on the right. And as you guys remember, this plenum goes to the left bank, which is running, but this fuel rail goes to the right bank, and the left plenum, which goes to the right bank. So the only other thing I could do to figure out if in fact it's the solenoid is if I could figure out how to tie into the fuel rail to figure out pressure. Now, I could disconnect it here for the return lines, but these two return lines go up there and then to a T and then go one line back. So if I just disconnect one, I have to plug the female end and then put something on there to see if anything's coming out. And I can't just pull out the regulator and do it because there's nothing that'll attach to it properly. And I don't want to spray fuel all over the place. So the only other idea I had was, let's see if this is a smart idea or not. To try to get the other bank to run, I could switch the two fuel lines where they come off the filter, because then the solenoid that's working would pump fuel into the bank that's not running. So if by switching that over, the bank that's not running, if it runs, then it's definitely the effing solenoid, which is really expensive from Lamborghini. I don't know what that part is from anywhere else. So that's my life. Yay. But I'm figuring it out. Yes. I may be a masochist, but I'll tell you guys this. It's kind of worth it. And because, you know, it's sad that I think Instagram ruined the world, and Pinterest, and especially TikTok is, all social media is ruining the world. But TikTok is, no, Instagram, because it was when Instagram came out that people could flex online with exotic cars. That's when this crap got worth a lot of money, and you got all the flexing narcissist douchebags, and it kind of ruined it for everybody. But the thing that's so special about this car is it is the end of the evolution of what the Countach was. It's still a steel tube frame car. You guys can see from all the steel tubes. We'll go over here. You can see from the tubes, okay? The engine platform, yeah, you can see all the steel tubes and stuff, right, of the frame, but it's all carbon fiber and aluminum and all that fancy stuff. But this engine, you know, is derived from the Diablo, and the Diablo car and engine is derived from the Countach. It was the end of the evolution. It was the end of the best. It was the end of the first supercar. The Murcielago and stick shift is the ultimate evolution of what the Countach was. And the Countach, you can say Murcielago or Mura all you want, but the Countach was the first, the best, the most iconic supercar. But the Murcielago is the best of what its character was. And so where I'm going with this is, it's kind of a shame that people like with their stupid social media flex and people think they're cool because they have a car. And I just think they're a bunch of douchebags that don't know squat about it. But I really care about the car. I know how to drive it. I got to drive it in Germany about 200 miles an hour on roadways. And that's what it was designed for. And you guys, it really is just so wonderful to drive. It's rewarding. It feels good. It makes incredible sounds. And it's the best. It's the most exciting, visceral experience of what cars are supposed to be for the sake of driving. And, you know, that's why, to me, it is worth it to have this kind of relationship. Well, partially because I can't afford a better one or somebody else to fix it. And ain't nobody got time for that. So I got to figure it out. But for me, it's worth it as part of the journey. And at the very least, when I figure it out, then I'm going to know the car so well. And we're going to have that much better of a relationship and be that much closer. It's kind of like if you've got a new girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, new relationship, right? And you guys, sometimes those trials and tribulations you go through will bring you closer. And okay, you guys, it's a couple days later and I figured this out. So this is a new filter. It's Wix part number 33008, and it's effectively identical as the original Weber ones, which I've got one here to show you. The difference being is this Weber one at the top, if you buy it off of eBay, the only one I saw was like 175 bucks. It's probably $250 off Lamborghini parts or something like that. The Wix down below, which is perfectly fine, which is dimensionally the same, it's slightly different, it's slightly smaller in diameter, but fits perfectly, was $11 off of Amazon. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna go with the $11 one. Should be just fine. Now, something I did, you'll notice, is that black fitting that's aluminum is not the original one. This one, which I put a piece of tape on to keep the crap out, is where the braided lines, which are down buried in there, I'll show you in a second, go on. But this is an aftermarket fitting. Now, the reason I've got that is I figured this out, finally. So these two parts here are solenoids. It's an electronic solenoid, and it's got a 3-wire pin doodad there. There's a barb fitting here where the fuel injector fuel line goes on it from the fuel pump, and then that threads into the fuel filter. Now, these are not necessary for running the car, and they're not important for the ECU. They're actually part of the freaking alarm system on this car. These default to closed, and so if the alarm goes off or something, it cuts the fuel supply to the car, and one of them went faulty. Now, the other problem I learned about these from reading eBay ads and the Lamborghini forum is with the codes, if you get new ones, and these little bastards are like $1,500 a pop, you have to apparently program it to the alarm system. It's ECU in this, the alarm system. And it's a weird alarm system that was only used on the early Murcielagos, so people don't have them as much. So it can be bypassed. And even if it can't, what I'm gonna do is I'll just leave the solenoid in the car plugged into the thing and then just bypass it for the running of the car. I mean, who's parking their Murcielago somewhere so bad you need an alarm system from 20 years ago to cut your fuel supply? So anyway, yeah, so if you can see it right down in here, yeah, you can see right here is the fuel filter I just put on. I actually rubbed some high quality razor tape around it to make up for the difference. It's held in foam right here. And then this is the braided line that goes to the fuel rail on here. The other thing I did was there were some color-coded little bands. I think you can see that. See that white band right there? That allows you to color code it so you know which pump goes to which bank and keep it all straight. So that's something I've been working to do, and as I took it apart, I marked the pumps and everything like that, so I'm keeping it straight. And then these little bands, these steel bands there that you can see on there, there's two of them, one right here and one right here. Those you can crimp down. They're one-time use only, but they're very strong. They work really well, and then you can just cut them when you're taking off. So I do have a box right there with loads of different sizes, and I found that to be very handy working on cars, and that's just one of those things I've acquired after a zillion years of working on cars. So I did bring some tools home and whatnot, but I think it's going well. And the other thing I chose to do, and this is smart, especially on a car that, whether it's just a car that means a lot to you, that you worked really hard on, or maybe it's relatively valuable, doesn't matter. Obviously, I want that car to not burn to the ground. So this right here is the fuel injection line that was originally on the car. It's in relatively good shape, but you can see where it was crimped and squished down and all. And there's that. So I bought some new fuel injector line, brand new, Very nice quality. I actually got this from Jegs, exact same size, really good quality and all that. So I cut 2 new pieces, and you had to thread that down from the bottom. One of the somewhat annoying things to me about this that just makes me, this is one of the original pumps here, which you guys I'm sure have seen working on European cars, this Bosch. This is the inlet side that comes from the tank, and then this is the pressure size. And you know, this thing can potentially put out the better part of 100 PSI or 80 anyway, which is a fair amount. But the outlet is just this composite plastic sort of affair here with this little barb that barely does anything. You guys can see that barb against my shirt there. So you really need to make sure you clamp this thing really well, and you have a high quality hose because you don't want your doggone line popping off there. So that's what I'm doing. I got a lot of faith, so I'm gonna get this puppy back together, prime it up, and fingers crossed the alarm system won't screw something else up. I won't need to have the solenoids plugged in, and most importantly, it'll run on 2 banks like a champ. Find out soon. Okay guys, so this is gonna be the end of the video. I'm going to put in the kill switch here for the Murci. That kills the battery's ground. I did put in a trickle charger here. So if you can see right over there, and go ahead and look over there, you can see the 2 fuel filters. And then just to the right, you see the yellow and red and black electrical plugs that are not connected to where that is. So what I'm gonna do now is I got everything buttoned down, tightened up, put on with the new fuel lines and all, and I'm gonna turn the key to the on position, which is the notch right before when you're actually turning the car over, a number of times to cycle the fuel pumps, build pressure, and make sure it doesn't leak before you go trying to put it all back together, 1, and then have to take it apart to fix it, and 2, you don't screw it all up. So anyway, okay, so I'll tell you what, come on over here, Brandon, because the fuel pumps are in there, you'll be able to hear them, and then so I'm just gonna lean in through the window and go. So we'll just keep priming. See any leaks?
I don't see anything.
That's weird noises. Nothing?
I don't see anything.
No leaks?
No, it looks good.
I gotta be honest, I'm frightened they're even working. They're so quiet. Okay, so there's no leaks so far, but I'm gonna go, guys, because I need Brandon to turn it over so I can look and listen and see if it's actually working properly. The only thing I can think of that would make it more quiet is if you guys take a look at this. So here's one of the solenoids, right? And it was in line. So the fuel had to go through here, this little one for one of the banks, and then it has to go through this cockamamie where like it goes in and then has to turn 90 degrees and turn 90 degrees again because the solenoid makes the plunger go up and down. So if I take this out of here, and there's convoluted little O-rings and crap that'll leak and shred. But as you guys can see, so half of the horsepower from this car has to be fuel that goes through that little hole in this bronze part, and then goes around this setting into one of these 2 holes, and then has to bend 90 degrees again to go in the side and come out that hole. So the fuel has to change direction a number of times in this little line, which, yeah, indeed can help create sound. And now everything's so darn silent, it's creepy. I guess I'll prime it a few more times.
There's some drops on the headers.
Where?
Is he right there?
Those?
Yeah, I don't know if that was from before.
That was from me working on it. Hang on, let me do it again. Damn, I can't do it fast enough. All right.
You need to.
Here, can you just turn the key to the on position each time?
Yep.
And for the love of God, don't hit start. Okay. Thanks, dude. You can just lean in. Turn. You got to go off and then on each time. Okay, go for it.
I feel so badly.
One more time. Again. Huh.
I didn't see anything.
Okay. Again, please. Gosh, well, okay, let me go down here to the fuel pump, see if they're doing anything, because it's so quiet. Again, please. All right, that one's definitely running. Okay, again, please. Again, please. Oh, yeah. Okay, stop. Okay, everything's running. It's just nice and quiet, which means fuel isn't as turbulent, which means it can make more power, which probably not. It probably is getting all the supply it needs, so it's running fine anyway, but it's a good thing to do. So let's see if it'll fire up. I gotta put the airbox back on. All right, so I gotta see if I can get to the doggone hose. Derp, derp, derp. Here it is. So I have to reconnect the cooling lines. So this goes, I'm assuming it might go to the heater core or something. But this is where you fill in all the coolant. And amazingly, when I took it off, it didn't spill coolant everywhere, so that made my life easier. So, here's the tank. It still has its fluid in there. I think I'm gonna wipe it off real quick. Might as well take a minute. Okay, don't be a freak. All right, so dirt, get in there. Okay. Yeah, got some of these rubber plugs. Oh, heck. Well, that was interesting. So there's that. Okay. Can you see any of this, Brandon? Wait a minute. Why do I have a horrible feeling that's not going to fit on there? Do you fit on there? Oh, I guess you do. Get on there. This is definitely one of those Italian afterthought things. I'm not saying only Italians do this, but this is very hand-built supercar kind of BS right here, because it's like impossible to get your hands in there in any remote stretch of the imagination to a good angle. So I'm going like this and backwards and trying to hinge my wrists and stuff. And then I gotta hold this tank out, which means you have to put the hose clamp on while it's out. And then, so you can't just like get to the hose. But, you know, cars from all over the world. How is this possible? Okay. Yeah. Are you guys enjoying this? I hate you all. I hate you. I hate each and every one of you. I just want you to know that. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Which I have no idea what that means. How in the actual flying foobar does this work? Oh. No. Yes. Fuck you. You Italian bitch. Oh, this is definitely the Italian part of this car coming out. Oh. What is this? Is this a thing? Here. Fucking get in there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Take that. Yeah. Cool. So anyway, I tell you guys also this. I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to watch this video because it's a Lamborghini and it's an expensive douchebag car. And all of those things are accurate, but it's also a really great car. And sometimes somebody works with their own hands and gets one. And in this circumstance, I do. So we're working on it like any old car. So for all of you that are still watching, I kind of appreciate that you're here because you're real car guys. And I hope you too get to enjoy all of your automotive dreams and that you too have to struggle with the country of origin of choice of your automotive dreams, just like me today. Come on, baby. Are you going in there? You know you want to. You know you want to. An old mechanic told me once when I was young with stuff like this, he's like, you just got to learn how to hold your tongue right. I'm like, what? So allow me to demonstrate when you're struggling. You got to know how to hold your tongue right. Yes, and depending on how you hold your tongue is how successful you will be as a mechanic. You're welcome, Casey Putsch, July 2022. Okay, so I've got cheap insurance, which also is not dry chemical. It's a halon type, which is gas, which I like better because it doesn't leave a giant corrosive mess everywhere if you need to use it. And I'm also putting this outside Because if you have a giant fire inside, you don't want to have to go into the inferno to get your fire extinguisher. So let's see if the fire's up. I got the tank back in, got everything hooked up, it's not leaking. This is on. I hope this works. It's not that it'd be so bad if it didn't work, but it'd be bad if something bad happened. All right, here we go. Come on, baby. Maybe you wanna go over there so you can see more? You can still hear it. Wherever. Oh, I have the seat back. It's also all-wheel drive and sitting on the ground in the front. So darn well, I want to make sure it's not here. Please. Higher RPM than before. Running on both banks. It's still burning out some of the crap from before, but it was only running on one. So stupid. Everything's fine, but this is like where you gotta be thinking. This is why YouTube sucks in doing video, because if you're doing something complicated and important, you need to think and not be distracted by a fucking camera. So I put duct tape over the intakes on that side, and I forgot to put the air box back on with the air filter so nothing could get sucked. So when I fired this up, I heard 2 pops, thinking that maybe it just popped, but the pops was the duct tape breaking. So I just feel really stupid, because I exposed the throttle bodies, which is fine. There's nothing here for it to get sucked in. But like, I'll be honest, I don't want to try to have to afford blowing up this motor if it sucks in some sort of metallic object. Man, I feel stupid.
Yeah, stupid case, man.
It doesn't matter. It'll run just fine with no airbox. It's just a safety thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something I would have done, so I'm mad at myself for missing the protocol. Obviously, I don't have a checklist, because I always do mental checklists and go over things. And this is the reason why. Okay, so for anybody that's watching, that's actually been to the shop when I close up, or a student, this is why I'll, generally speaking, lock the door, go to my car, and then come back and check the door again. Because race cars and working on high-end stuff like this will make you OCD. At least I don't tie my shoelaces like 4 times or something. Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm gonna put this on kind of upside down, because the car doesn't know which way the airbox runs. It doesn't matter at all. Looks like I'm doing a Yoda kit or something. That's kind of cool. Fun idea. Alright, so I'm just gonna put it like this because I want to be able to watch down there, make sure everything's cool. And I'm just gonna put that in place. Although I'm getting all kinds of paranoid now. I honestly, I don't like this camera here, you guys. Scares me. You ever send an envelope or something and you feel like you can't remember if it's in there, or you just don't feel like it's in there because you can't see that it's in there? This is me being all paranoid. I don't want to blow up my fucking car. So I'll tell you this, years ago, you guys, I had a Porsche 944, an early one that had an issue with the oil pump and priming, and then and because of that, it developed a very, very, very slight rod knock. So I made a trade with a friend of mine at the time who had a lift that was what I thought was a better mechanic than me. So he did the work and did the rods in the car because I didn't have the shop space to be able to do it and whatnot. So anyway, he did it, and the car was fine for a few months. And then one day I was driving it fast, and the whole car blew up in the biggest cloud of smoke I've ever seen. And the engine was tied up, and I sold it. And then I found out later when the guy went to rebuild it that the worm gear from a hose clamp got sucked into a cylinder. So my buddy who worked on it and fixed it didn't check his stuff, and it blew up my engine. All right, let's fire back up. God darn, I'm dumb. how to make it work and how the whole car works. And that's why with a lot of things in life, car systems, jet engines, whatever, when you get to a certain place of knowledge of systems and mechanics and electronics and fluids and materials and science and techniques, eventually you almost never need a manual except for like torque specs and stuff or timing. And you can just fix it by basic troubleshooting. I also didn't have a Leonardo. I didn't have, or whatever the Italian things are that are expensive. They plug into these things. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna get it back together, but it's running and happy again, and we saw it through. And I got new filters for $11 a piece instead of like $200-300 bucks. That's good. I can bypass those stupid solenoids you don't need that are like $1,500 new, so I didn't have to spend that money. And the fuel pumps I was able to order just straight up from AutoZone, which were the exact same part number, as well as the oxygen sensors. So the Mercy now, you guys remember, has pretty fresh oil change. It's got all new 4 oxygen sensors. It's gonna get spark plugs soon. I got brand new fuel pressure regulators, fuel pumps, fuel filters, and fuel injection hose. So that's updated on one old fuel line going bad and blowing up and lighting the car on fire. So should be a pretty happy car. I look forward to see you guys next time, and that's it. But yeah, smart, normal people in their home garage can work on cool cars too. See ya.